I think
Hello,
so.
everyone, and welcome to the Alliance of Independent Authors Advanced Self-Publishing Salon with me, Joanna Penn, and Orna Ross. Hi, Orna.
Hi, Joanna, and hello, everyone.
Hello.
How
Here
are
we
we
are
all?
again. And we only have, October, no, 3 months left of 2020. I think everyone is fine with the end of the year.
The end of 2020. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be mourned by many.
No, but we don't want to wish it away. We want to get lots done. But as usual, we're going to start off by giving a bit of an update what we've done over the past month. Our topic for today is 10 premium products that authors can create and sell to true fans. So that is coming up. But Orna, why don't you start by telling us what's going on with Ally?
Yeah, Ally is in pre-conference mode, which is always a kind of a busy time of the year for us. So on the 17th of October, we will have our 24-hour conference. And our theme this month is tools and tech for indie authors. So lots of really interesting technology and tools of all kinds. Lots of our partner members are obviously involved with this conference more than usual. We're sponsored. Our gold sponsor, as ever, is Ingram Spark, which is marvelous, and then we have joint silver sponsors: Pro Writing Aid, Fictionary, and Prestazon. But we're going to be looking at everything from sort of writing software, Plotter, through beta books, all sorts of things. We've got Dave Chesson talking about email marketing tools, surveys for authors, running online events. So the definition of tools is really kind of wide, and yeah, really looking forward to it. And then we'll do a guide to the top 100 tools from the Ally team. And I know you've given us your top 3, which we'll unveil on the 17th.
I don't think anyone will be surprised, but
No, well, I wasn't, but yeah, it's great, I think, for people to get recommendations from people, not just tools that we think are great, but tools that we use ourselves and use every day. Really, I think it's a top tool if you're using it every day. So yeah, really looking forward to conference. It doesn't leave a lot of time for other things. What have you been up to?
yeah, well, and I just wanted to add on the whole tools thing that I think new ones are arriving all the time. I mean, look, you and I have been doing this show for years, and this is like the 5th tool or something we've used. We're using right now, we're using StreamYard. I've used different things. People use different, like new stuff arrives. Like my accounting software, I shifted, and things change. So it's always good. I will be looking forward to this too. I always find out new stuff from other people, so that will be exciting. So I have been full on writing mode. So I'm now edits for Tree of Life. I've got the printout here. I'm doing my hand edits. I'm really happy with this book, actually. Today I'm happy. I've gone through the classic up and down every day. But I did a reverse outline at about 40,000 words, and that really helped. So I'm not an outliner, but I outlined backwards, and that helped me fill in the gaps for the last phase of the book. And I've started researching my next book, and we'll be talking about that next time. I'll come back to that later. But I also did a 50K ultra marathon, just mainly because I felt like I needed to push my comfort zone, that I've been staying in the house too much. I think everyone, we are recording this in pandemic times. I think everyone feels like, well, maybe you're happy to be inside all the time, but I just felt like, right, I need to push my comfort zone because I'm not happy with the way my brain is going. And I just had a great day. It was all COVID secure, all full on safe. And I did my walk. I did it in just over 11 hours, no blisters, beautiful day in the Chilterns, and just lovely. So really happy that I did that. And I wanted to say that while I was walking, I always think about everyone has different definitions of success. Everyone, starts at different times, finishes at different times. Don't compare yourself to anyone when you're doing a 50K ultra. Just think about yourself and your own journey. And that's the same with our writing. So what about you?
Metaphor. Yeah. Actually, there's lots of books, isn't there, about writing and walking, or writing and running, because they do really kind of complement each other in so many ways. And
definitely
the same kind of mindset needed for both, and they help each other too. Me, I'm all launchy. Everything seems to be about launching at the moment. So I'm going to do what I would call a full-on launch in January for my long-awaited, by me, uh, creative self-publishing book, which is kind of my guide to self-publishing, which I've never done actually in personally, you know. So it incorporates obviously Ally kind of principles and things, but it also separates out my own thinking and my own journey and stuff like that. And yeah, it's taken me until now to write it. It's actually the first book in the Ally series, but it's the last to be written, which is like pretty typical. But I couldn't really write it until now, which I think is interesting. And I think that is because of the whole understanding of self-publishing 3.0 and the changes that we have seen in the community in the last 18 months or so, and the things that are coming down the track towards us as we go forward. So yeah, that's happening, but I've put so much work, time, and you know, everybody is in this, the members, the advisors, everyone I've worked with, you know, that I want to really kind of put some juice behind it. So I'm going to do a kind of full-on launch for January, but a soft launch in between. And I've also got a poetry book, which I'm launching as well, and trying different things with poetry. Poetry is interesting and different, and you know, just kind of feeling out around that, and yeah, writing away. That's me.
Yeah, well, great. And always important for us to talk about that, I think, because we are writers first, talking about writing second. So let's get into our topic this month, which is 10 premium products that authors can create and sell to true fans. So just some definitions up front. And why is this important? So the reason we wanted to talk about this is it's very hard to make a living from book sales alone, unless you have a lot of books in a popular genre and you have mastered marketing / advertising, some way of that. So, but, you know, or both Orna and I, we do make money from selling books, but we also make money from other streams of income, as we've talked about. So, Orna, what is a premium product? What are we talking about in terms of premium?
Essentially, it's a higher value item than a book. Books are very low cost. And if you want to make a living and if you want to make money in this world, you've got two choices. You sell a lot of a low cost item to a lot of people, or you can sell a few premium and more high value products to fewer people. So it's very good in business generally to balance yourself out. And I first came to the concept of, I was doing it, but I had never thought about it in these terms. First came to this concept through Daniel Priestley, who's kind of a business mentor for me. And he talks about the product ecosystem. And I've discussed that in other places, and I won't get into that now. But he had some very interesting ideas around premium products. And I realized that the mentoring that I was doing at that time was a premium product. And I've done a few other kind of premium products along the way. So I think it really has been great for me. And at times where, you know, sometimes with a book, it can be a long time when you're working on a book and you need to go deep. Maybe you don't have the time to be marketing all this stuff. To have a premium product that kind of keeps rolling on really does make a difference, I think. And we were talking last time about the 1,000 true fans, and I think it links very much into that. I've seen a development of that since we spoke last time. I forget her name, but I have it.
Li Jin, I think you mentioned.
Thank you. Yes, she, with Kevin Kelly's complete support, has said that she feels, and he completely agrees, that she wrote the piece he wishes he had written, which is essentially saying that in this day and age, actually 100 true fans paying more money is distinctly possible in a way that it simply wasn't when he originally wrote his post, and in a way that it wasn't when, say, you and I started self-publishing. So I think it's definitely, you know, premium products are definitely something that everybody should think about. You may not, maybe everybody might not decide to do it, but everybody should definitely consider it.
So just to be clear, we are assuming at basic that you already have ebooks, print on demand, paperbacks, and maybe digital audiobooks. So we're not including those. They are not premium products. They are your basic. So, but we are assuming that you have some books. So let's get into it. So the first one is number one, premium print editions of your books. So this is limited edition hardbacks, can be fiction or non-fiction. So a couple that I know about is that obviously Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter, now super famous for making $6.7 million. But I am right now part of Mark Leslie Lefebvre, his Kickstarter right now, which is called Feed the Obsession, which is an anthology with a limited edition print book, which has raised over 10,000 Canadian dollars. Now, I don't know exactly how much Mark will get out of that in his pocket, but he put, you know, a lot of people love Mark and threw some money in to support him. So, Orna, you did this as well, didn't you? Tell us about that.
Yes, I did a crowdfunder for a book called Secret Rose, where I brought together W.B. Yeats book and my own book, put them together, centenary celebration kind of thing. I used the crowdfunder to fund the premium product that I would not have been able to fund myself up front. And it was a bit of a risk because, you know, it was a very unusual publication. It was a very, very niche publication. You had to be a Yeats diehard super fan. I mean, there isn't a name for how much you had to love Yeats to love this book. So, you know, I wasn't going to kind of just put it out there, and also needed to know that there were enough people who were interested in it. So yeah, it was a lot of work went into the paper and the cover, and you know, at a completely different level to the normal POD kind of thing. It was a brilliant experience. I absolutely loved it, and I will repeat it someday. What I didn't love was the distribution. So if I was doing something like this again, I would distribute it in a different sort of way. You know, it was going to the post office. And while I did like, you know, I enjoyed writing the dedication and the nice little card and wrapping it up and all of that, I only enjoyed it as long as there weren't too many. If there were too many to be sent out, then I was losing the spirit of the whole thing. So yeah, I would have to rethink distribution next time, but I would really recommend it for somebody, you know, if you're thinking about it. And the crowdfunder, as I said, really made it feasible.
And I saw this years ago. I saw what Cory Doctorow did with one of his books, and this is what I'd love to do. He actually used special paper. He hand bound at a letterpress, you know, place, and used paper ephemera. So I don't know whether he cut up one of his journals or something. Like, I've thought about that. I could cut up one of my journals and put in little things that make this absolutely unique. And he only did, I think, 50 of them, and they're significant price, numbered, limited. They're truly limited edition, not just like we've printed 500 and numbered them. Like, if there is something personal from the author inside, not, you know, that's incredible. So that's our first one, these premium print edition, limited edition. And what I was going to say with your Secret Rose book, I'm not a super fan of Yeats, but I'm a super fan of you. And so I supported that Kickstarter, and so, or it wasn't a Kickstarter, it was on a different platform, but I bet you a lot of people bought that book to support you and your project. And like me, perhaps have never even opened.
Oh no, don't tell me that. I've read every word.
But I bet you that's true. And that's true fans.
That's it. That is absolutely right. Yeah, it was evenly divided, and that's a really important point between those who absolutely loved Yeats and those who absolutely love me.
Love you. And this is why I'm saving my big ask. At some point, I will have a big ask around a Kickstarter or something. And so I'm waiting until I have a big ask that I really care about, and then I'll ask. And some people will feel like joining that at some point. God knows when that will be. But let's move on. So the next one is number 2, workbooks, journals, notebooks, annuals, and other kind of stationery type products, which is where we're leaving space for people to write their own material. So for example, I buy the Trig Life Mapper every year. I've got it here. It's I absolutely love it. You know, I just love that planner. I've got workbooks. You've got Joel Friedlander did a premium journal, which I interviewed him about. And so what about your workbooks and journals, etc.?
Yeah, well, I had a whole publishing sort of disaster with a series that I was going to do, Go Creative series, which everybody who listens regularly to this podcast heard about for years, and then I withdrew. So, well, I have contained a huge amount of the knowledge and stuff that I was writing about into a planner, which I am now kind of producing. And these are not premium products in the sense that I'm trying to make them as affordable as possible. It's a completely different project to the last one. What's interesting about planners though and stuff like that is that with very little update, you kind of, somebody has to buy a new one. So I've a quarterly and a monthly, and I'm not going to do the big annual thing. It's very much based around this concept of quarters, which completely changed my life and gave me back so much time, and also based around creativity and why planning a creative business is a completely different thing to planning a conventional business. So yeah, I think but I've had a bit of a Go Creative starter pack on the go for a long time. I have free writing notebooks which people buy who got into my method of free writing, and yeah, they're great. POD makes it so easy. Really, it's extraordinary. And just that the paper, just, you know, the ordinary paper that Amazon and KDP and Ingram Spark, and Ingram, both, it's fantastic. It really works for a notebook, which is great. There isn't a big see-through kind of factor at all. So yeah, well worth thinking about if you have that kind of mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I do them now for each of my non-fiction books. And I did look at doing a premium journal, but I really just love the lie flat. And to have a lie flat journal, you can't do POD. And I never wanted spiral bound. And so there are some things that you might love as a sort of stationery geek. I'm a bit of a stationery geek. And at the end of the day, I went, nah, they already do it better. There are already better products. So you do have to definitely look for what fits. But think about that. Like, how can you turn some of what you have into something that people have to buy over and over again instead of just the once? Okay, number 3, online courses. Now, again, we've talked about a lot of these things in different shows. We just wanted to put them all in one show. So obviously I have courses. So how to write nonfiction, for example, is I've got a book, I've got a course, I've got a workbook, and it's not, well, obviously it's not, I'm not reading the book. It's not like the audiobook. I'm presenting it with slides and making it much more me presenting. So it is quite a different product. And then I also wanted to mention masterclass.com, because people are always like, oh, well, it's okay for non-fiction authors. They can get away with it. But Dan Brown, James Patterson, Margaret Atwood, Joyce Carol Oates, I mean, these are very different writers. They all have classes on writing. So even as a fiction author, you can do this. So Orna, comments on online courses?
Yeah, courses are fantastic. I mean, I haven't gone there, but I will sometime. But I think they're absolutely brilliant. And what I've seen is authors who were teaching, you know, and being barely paid in a local tech or whatever, the local community hall or the local university, being so poorly paid, then taking that knowledge, turning it into a course, and you know, really getting decently and properly paid for it. So I'm very excited. I love online courses, and I would go so far as to say we all should have a course in something. We're all an expert in something. And the other thing to say is that it doesn't have to be about writing. It doesn't have to be about, it could be about something completely different. You're an author, and to a lot of people, that's really cool. And if you know, can do a course in something that's completely unrelated to your writing, that's completely acceptable as well. It doesn't have to be about your writing or even tied into your topic, your genre, or anything like that. So yeah, definitely.
You just gave me an idea there.
The ideas are definitely flying. Yeah, go on.
Like, no, when you said that, I was like, of course. And because I was going to say, it doesn't have to be an expensive thing. Because I think a few years ago, it was all like, oh, it's $2,000 or, you know, these big mega courses. And the problem is, if you do a mega course and then it takes ages, and then if it doesn't sell, you're pretty screwed. But my last course, your author business plan, it's like $99 and I put it on special now and then for $49, and that is a short course. It's like 3 hours and people love that. And I was just thinking as you were talking, I could do like a preparation for multi-day walking mini course to go on Books and Travel, because people just feel like, what do I do? How do I do 50k, or how do I do a 6-day walk? And that could be something that I start doing under my other brand. So thank you for that idea.
You're welcome. And the ideas are flying. Michelle has just written a comment to say that she's now going to do a limited edition of her poetry book. Go, Michelle.
Great.
That's fantastic. Romantic Romps, I'm not sure who that is exactly, but asking, when you create a premium product, do you keep your writing name or change to a pseudonym? I would see no reason to change.
Well, it depends what it's on. I mean, you know.
Yes, of course, unless you have a good reason to change, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would be the same.
Your ecosystem. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, if I do a course on walking, I'll put it under JF Pen, because Joe Francis Pen does the fiction and that side of Books and Travel, so that wouldn't be on the Creative Pen. So it's about your brand and curating your brand. We've talked about brand here before, so we won't go into that. But yeah, definitely, unless it's some, like if I did, I mean, I don't even have kids, but I just thought, like, if I did something on, you know, kids, that wouldn't fit at all with my existing brand or my life. So that would be somewhere else. So yeah, definitely think about it that way. Okay, let's get back to it. So number 4, online membership or online community access. Orna, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, I'm big into membership, and you know, I mean, Ally is a membership organization, and I just love membership as a way to do things, because it's very real. The community leads, you know, bringing people together, and it's a very good model for lots of the things that we do as authors. And so I, as well as Ally, I also have a membership on through Patreon for business planners, you know, again, who work from the creative business planning perspective. And it just allows me, to have a relationship with a smaller group of people in a very meaningful sort of way that I really love. So I'm a big fan of membership models, and I think it's really important, though, that you have a sort of service mentality. You want to really love the people that you are going to have as members, and you need to have a clear idea of what your value is, otherwise, and you need to just enjoy the connection. That's really, really important. If you're not that kind of person, then the membership model is not going to work. But if you are, then again, you can get quite creative about what membership model actually means. It doesn't necessarily mean a big membership site where you're trying to have a whole load of people or anything like that. It can be and particularly for what we're talking about here, it can be all about exclusivity, keeping it very small. The smaller it gets, the more you charge, you know. So, and it can also, again, go outside your day-to-day stuff. You can take in different kinds of things into your membership once you have clarity about the value that you're offering.
I have never done memberships, and I don't want to. I find I'm not someone who wants to commit to that. I think it takes a lot of time, and especially if you haven't got an existing audience. Some people start these things and then they've only got like 10 people, and then they feel like they're spending too much time over not enough people. So it's definitely one of those things that you have to commit to. I do know people who do things like that for sort of author masterminds and stuff like that. I am part of some communities, obviously part of Ally. I'm part of the Unemployable community, which is for entrepreneurs, a lot of creatives, and so I like it in principle. But I do think, as you say, you have to want to serve a group, and you have to be committed, and you have to allow for the amount of time that it's going to take, and price accordingly. I think that's important. Okay, so the next one, 5, a premium newsletter for an industry. So this is one you added.
Oh, did I? Okay. Yeah. Well, the obvious example that is in our own industry is Jane Friedman. Used to do it with Porter Anderson as well. Jane goes alone now, the hot sheet, and pretty much everybody who cares about what's going on in the publishing industry has a subscription to the Hot Sheet. It's a really fantastic publication. And so if you can, again, this is very much also about serving, also takes a lot of time. Also, so all of these things, you know, are not for everybody. We're throwing out lots of different ideas so you can think about what suits you. Your personality is a big, important part of this as well. You know, I mentioned the kind of the service mentality. Some people actually get a buzz out of that. Other people feel completely oppressed and weighed down by it. And it's the same with the paid newsletter. Because it's paid, you can't miss out. You can't do it scrappily. You know, you have to be really dedicated. It becomes a core part of your writing and what you're doing each month. And yeah, you just need to be committed. But if you can find something that people are prepared to pay for in that way, and you really do love writing about that particular thing, then it can be very rewarding if you get the mix right.
Well, I'll just mention on that unemployable community that I'm part of, and it's the 7 Figure Small podcast if people are interested. But I was listening to one of the private membership things on that, and a woman was talking about doing a newsletter for people who love horses but don't own horses. And that's just a brilliant niche, because people who love horses, right? But most people, I would think, who love horses don't own a horse, and perhaps go out and rent them sometimes or whatever. But it was such a good idea, because, and it's not related to writing. So that, again, this doesn't have to be related to your writing. It could be you know, if whatever you're into, you can find an audience who might be interested. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. Like I think Jane's is $10 a month or something. It's not like loads of money. And the model is a curation model. So you don't actually have to make up all the material. You just have to be someone who enjoys finding out stuff and writing coherently and linking to things. That you act as you know, as a curator. That's kind of what I do in the introduction to my podcast every week, and that's sponsored by patrons, but we'll come on to that. But yeah, I think the premium newsletter is becoming a more and more powerful tool in an era where people don't know who to trust, and they don't want to spend all their time surveying all this information.
And there's too much stuff coming at us. Brain Picker is another very good example. And that's voluntary. It's not actually paid up front. It's subscription or donation, I should say, only. But she has done really, really well with it. So you don't have to make it a subscription, though I think it's much more acceptable now to do that than it was when the internet started. Everybody thought they had to give everything for free and it was just pure donation. But now I think people will pay, as you say, so much information coming at us. If I can get it all just in one place, it's kind of what we do as well with the Self-Publishing News every Wednesday, that Dan Holloway's excellent column. You can just go there once a week and find out what's going on, and you know, and you're sorted, and then you go back to your writing. So,
yeah, absolutely. Kind of related is the number 6 premium audio subscription. So again, you know, as people who do audio, we always prepare in writing. Obviously, Orna and I have a crib sheet that we prepared earlier. So premium audio is, you know, you're still a curator, you're still producing material, but you're doing it via audio. So Making Sense podcast with Sam Harris, which is a really big podcast, now has, I think, like 5 minutes for everyone. And then it goes under the premium edition, and you need a subscription. Now there are all of these services now. We're going to come to tools in a minute, but there are services now that allow you to do all this kind of thing easily. And I have actually thought about this for my pretty niche interest in AI, which I talk about on my podcast, but I think I want to talk about it more often. I want to talk about it more than people want me to talk about it. So I've thought about doing something separate on that. I'm still considering it for 2021. Who knows? But again, you have to have enough interest. And to be fair, I don't even get enough interest in what I'm interested in. So that's important, people. If you want to make money, there has to be an audience. Anything else on premium audio, Orna?
No, that's more your area, audio, than mine. But the same principles apply. Everything we said about doing a text or indeed doing a course, so, you know, same principles will come up again and again in terms of, as you said. But you know, we're getting so fragmented now. It's like with our books, when you start off, we've forgotten what it's like to be like this because our brands are kind of established. But, you know, when you start off, you have to go where your readers are. You have to find out, where do these people hang out? You have to find your comparable authors. You have to do, you know, so if you're thinking of starting a subscription model on anything, or a curation model on anything, you'll need to go, and particularly if it isn't connected to your existing books, you will need to go and find out where those the people who are really, so you need to go find some AI geeks, not publishing people necessarily, you know, AI geeks who are interested in publishing on the side rather than publishing people who are interested in AI on the side. But I would definitely sign up for that. Go do.
Well, and this is the other thing, everyone, we should just say, we're not saying that you should do all of these things. We're just giving you, in fact, do not try. Like over time, you might do some of them and consider other things. And obviously there's more potential for more money, but there's more time involved in different things. So you have to weigh it up. We're just giving you some options.
And
okay, so
Julie,
sorry.
I think it's Julie has come in just saying, I have a monthly newsletter for my nonfiction, which curates government announcements. And I've just opened it, Buy Me a Coffee, and got a great response. I used it to announce my book and my course launches. I wouldn't feel comfortable about charging for it. So this is a halfway approach for me. Well, maybe it will bring you all the way, and you will realize, you know, if you could do a follow-up and see, would people be interested in doing a full-on paid subscription? But yeah, thank you for that. Great.
Yeah, and by the way, I can't see the comments, so I'm relying on you picking anything up. So just so you know. Okay, so then number 7, coaching, consulting, mentoring, online or live. So this is really much more of the one-to-one or one-to-small group. So I did this years ago, and then I just decided I could serve more people by doing, you know, more podcasting and things like Patreon, where I do Q&A. So I don't do this anymore, haven't done it for years. But Orna, you do, or you have?
I too quit, but much later. I loved mentoring. I loved the one-to-one, one-to-few. But like, you know, same thing as you. It comes to a point where you have to think about where your energy is being spent and how many people you're reaching and all of that kind of thing. And that was actually why I started the small membership creative business planning group, because at least it's still small. It's not a big webinar or anything like that. It's still a small workshop, but it's 50 to 100 people instead of, you know, 2 to 5 people or one-to-one, which I was doing before. But if you love what you're doing and you like one-to-one connection, again, you have to then charge appropriately, though. And that's the other thing I think is quite difficult with this particular model. Authors can find it really, because we're used to selling books, you know, and some of us are used to selling books 99 cents and $2.99, you know. And
everything I know for 99 cents.
I know, it's stop that, people. But anyway, moving on. You know, it can be quite difficult for an author to get the mindset of actually charging properly for time. And I've seen people run themselves ragged doing one-to-one mentoring, consulting, coaching stuff, and just not charging appropriately. So you need to recognize the clients that you can help on a one-to-one basis, and you definitely need, if you have that mindset that doesn't allow you to kind of charge your worth and charge more than you're comfortable charging, really, that's what it comes down to. This model will not work for you, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, and you have to be like, for me, I certainly find it's very intense, and I want to give everything, and so it's exhausting. So I started off at $99, and then I would per hour, but I would also spend an hour preparing, so it was really $99 for 2 hours. Then I went up to $299, so $299 for a session, and then I kind of felt like I could charge more, but I don't want to charge more, and I'm feeling like I'm already working too hard for that money, and it's not scalable. At the end of the day, I prefer scalable income. But I would say that some people are born for this and are really brilliant at it. So in that situation, as Orna said, charge appropriately and be very particular. Like our mutual friend, Mark McGuinness, who's a creative coach for, you know, high performing creatives. He has an interview process to become a client. Like, he doesn't just take anyone. He has to have a good match for, you know, a premium coaching service. So I think that's really important. And you can certainly find models of coaching that work very well.
And the pricing model is important too. I mean, for years, I only worked with people who were willing to commit to at least 6 months, but preferably a year, because mentoring it doesn't work. There isn't just a one-off, you can give a little bit of advice and stuff, but I got nothing from that. Just dispensing advice to one person makes no sense to me when you could do something like this. So, price annually, work out a program for people. It doesn't have to be just, here's an hour and I turn up and I do whatever the other person wants. You can actually work out one-to-one programs where you get the pricing model works better. And all authors can do this. There is a great demand for teaching the craft and teaching it, yes, but what we're talking about here, doing coaching, consulting, manuscript evaluations. But the craft, once we become, competent at self-publishing, we actually have mastered 3 crafts: writing, publishing, and business, digital creative business, which is a craft in itself. So all of that can be packaged and mentored, coached to people, and there is a great hunger for it. But yeah, again, check your personality type first.
Yeah. Okay. Number 8, paid webinars, workshops, masterminds, challenges. So this is kind of in between the coaching, mentoring, and the online course type of thing. And this includes, I guess, speaking at other people's events and also running your own. So we have both spoken at other people's. I mainly prefer to speak at other people's and just get the money, and I don't have to organize anything. We have organized our own, and it's been both great and also a pain. And I think if you're going to do events, you have to love event management, especially if you're doing like bigger conferences. Is a lot of admin and organizing stuff that is nothing to do with the teaching and nothing to do with the people. It's all just in the background. But saying that, I mean, I am planning on doing some events once in my local hotel, because like one of the biggest things for me is the travel. Like when we speak in America, for example, flying over, the jet lag, the food issues, all of that. And then you speak and you don't know the venue, you don't know the town. And I thought, well, to get rid of a lot of stress would be to do things more locally for me. So I'm definitely looking at doing this in Bath once we are back into the world again. So yeah, any comment? Obviously you can do it online, but we're also talking about doing live stuff in person.
Yeah, and both. I think an interesting development in this particular category is the challenge, which is something we've seen a lot of this year, which is a nice kind of compact thing that you can do for a few weeks and then have a break, so it isn't mentoring all year round, or it isn't doing a course which constantly needs updating or whatever. You just do it as short and sharp, and then it's over. And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot in the indie space, but in other places as well. And I think that's a very good model, say between books, or at a time where you maybe don't have a lot of marketing to do, or you do something like that, and then you put it behind you, but you'll do 1 a quarter or 2 a year or something like that.
And remember, some of this, it might be $49 to join a challenge for a month to write more and just check in once a day and write online together or something. $49, it's not that much for an experience, but that's could be 25 times the revenue of an ebook sale. So that's what you've got to think about when we're talking about premium products. You're going to sell fewer of these things, or you might not, but you'll get more revenue. And that's what we're talking about, is these things that kind of magnify your income and bring in that money that with books takes a lot more work, really.
When I started out, it was this kind of thing that gave me my editing budget, my designer budget. I literally would not be in business had I not had some of these extra premium products. Really good question here from Michelle Little, talking about, I mentioned soft launch earlier on. She's asking, could you make your premium product the soft launch, since it's limited and not for the masses? And I think, yeah, that's a good idea in a way, but the premium product, because it costs more, needs its own launch plan in order for it to be successful. So that might work depending on what exactly
you're going to do.
yeah, it depends very much on the content. Yeah, exactly.
It might be an event that to your private audience around the launch, for example, but it's not the book itself, because that's not worth a bigger amount of money, because you're still going to sell it for whatever you're going to sell it for. Okay, so then we've also got number 9, intimate performances, which sounds interesting. Readings, story or poetry retreats, holidays, weekends to your settings, dining experience, pub crawl.
I know a guy who did it. he charged, he didn't charge enough. He charged the price of drinks, and then a hat went round at the end of the night. But it was on his book based on literary
drinking.
No, literary places in Dublin, but the pubs, that writers used to go to, and it was actually really good. But yeah, this is something that's more creative and moves into probably your core competency. So probably is more likely to be related to whatever it is that has made you popular in the first place. So it doesn't really have to be, but it can be online or it can be live. Live generally will work better as a premium product, because you can add, the premium is your actual physical presence, which people like. They want to get to know you. So it could, I know people who have done dinner with me kind of thing, for people who would really, not, I don't mean me personally, no, I meant with them. So because people wanted very much to pick their brains or just be in their presence, and so it's that kind of thing. I had a lovely gig not long ago where I was asked to, it would have been a physical event, but because of COVID it wasn't, and it was a book club who wanted me to come and read from my book and talk about my motivations and Blue Mercy and the characters and all the rest of it to them. And it ended up being online, so it was even easier for me. I didn't have to go anywhere, and so we sat and we drank for wine for 2 hours, and I talked about it. They asked me questions, and it was a really nice thing. Now there were 12 in the book club, each of them threw in 50 quid, and I got paid kind of nicely, and there was nothing to them. So that kind of, I don't think I'd be going off and arranging trying to make that a thing, but again, it's just about throwing out ideas.
Yeah, be that kind of just it's original and unique, a live event, or because everything you do will never happen again in that way. Even if you repeat the weekend, it will be different people or whatever. And you and I have been talking about doing a retreat for years now, so maybe one day we'll get around to it. But
we really should have, before all this started. Had we known, we would have
exactly.
Poets do well on these. Poets do well on these live events. Anybody who has a performance component, and you can get together with other performers, musicians maybe, and make a really nice kind of, so that you're enjoying a creative experience yourself as well. And you really can, if you get the pricing right, these can be very, very successful.
Fantastic. And then slightly different in number 10, merchandise, which we've seen there's some great merchandise, and then there's some real kind of shocking tat, which I'm not sure if that word goes across cultures, but it's, the real cheap looking stuff. And I think there are some great print on demand services, like there's some great t-shirt printing stuff and mugs and things. But if you're going to get into doing figures of your characters, or plush, which is the children's stuff, I really think you have to do your research over the providers, and then you also need to look at all the shipping stuff. And so what do you think here, Orna? What are some of your thoughts on merchandise?
Yeah, I've seen some people do really, really well with it, and surprising. I think it works much better in certain genre. Obviously, children's is the obvious one. Fantasy people seem to do well with merchandise. But again, creativity can come in, and it's important that it does, I think. It can be, I'm always surprised at the public's appetite for tat.
I suppose, but I just think, you go to a conference and there's a table with literally 1,000 bookmarks on that authors have spent money on printing and go in bags and end up in, you know, hotel rooms. So I would just be really careful what you spend your money on. And given that we're talking about premium stuff that's meant to make you money, then make sure it's worth doing. The other thing here is to be very careful around licensing. Just because you have licensed a book cover from someone, that does not mean you have the license to put a picture of your book cover or the art from your book cover on a t-shirt or anything else. You have to check your contract. You may have to pay, well, you most likely will have to pay for licensing that image for other merchandise. So any other stuff on that?
Yeah, no, that's all really important. So will we look at some of the tools then?
Yes, very quickly. Why don't you do the first two and I'll do the second two?
Okay. Well, I'll do Patreon definitely, which I love and I think it's great. And you've put together some really interesting kind of figures here, which is...
No, you did that.
Did I? Okay. I prepared for this way too early. I've forgotten what I've done. So there are some, and I found them, I curated them, some very interesting figures about how much more people, so going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, about the 100 true fans who will actually pay again, and the author mindset that thinks, so people won't pay for my stuff. And Patreon has said that the average initial pledge amount has gone up 22% in the last 2 years. New patrons paying more than $100 a month, so that's like $1,200 a year, has grown by 21%. Now, they don't say where that started, but it's still a very interesting trend, and it is repeated over other platforms as well. So Podia, again, the number of creators earning more than $1,000 a month is growing 20% each month. So this is we're talking about something that works. That's just what I want.
Do you know what Podia is? Because you put that there.
Okay,
I imagine it might be podcasting, but because you did it, I assumed you knew what you were talking about.
I did when I did it.
So just a couple of other tools. Teachable, definitely want to mention Teachable. I use Teachable for my courses. I highly recommend it. It's brilliant. And it's brilliant because I just do the creative bit and then they manage all the uptime, the tech stuff. It's really easy to use. You just get your money. It's great. And you can have affiliates and stuff like that. So I love Teachable. And the figures here, in 2019, nearly 500 Teachable course creators made more than $100,000. 25 averaged more than 1,000 per sale. And certainly I make a good chunk of cash every month from Teachable, and most of my courses are between $49, $99, maximum $299. So I'm not doing big courses, I'm doing small ones. And Substack for paid newsletter.
Sorry, yes, I was in Substack. I do remember. I was getting excited because I remembered how surprised I was when I looked at this paid newsletter platform, because again, I hadn't really thought about paid newsletters being so potentially lucrative. Yeah. And
what do you want to read the number?
More than 500,000 a year from reader subscriptions. Yeah,
that is pretty amazing. That's the top earner on Substack. So I think our main point is that we're not saying don't stop writing books or anything. We're just saying, like, you've got your baseline, your ebook, your paperback, your print on demand paperback, you've got your audiobook, maybe if you're at that stage, but then you're also looking at all these other things. And both of us have done, some of these, a number of these, and still do a number of these over time. And so we're encouraging you to really think about the different ways you can take the pressure off your book sales and bring in income from other sources, so you can relax a bit more and enjoy the author journey. That would kind of be my point. So any final words on that, Orna, before we almost finished?
Yeah, I think it is worth probably just talking about Priestley's idea of this product ecosystem. And just briefly, it's 4 things. One is a gift that you just give away and you don't even think about it. It's a gift just to put it out into the universe and to show people what you do. And that might be, for me, it's poetry on Instagram, no charge. Off it goes. I don't think about it. It's not really doing anything. The next one is your reader magnet, where you actually are looking for a sign up. The next one is your core products, and that will be our books, and then your premium product. And there are your 4 categories of product, and you get that as an ecosystem working together. So one thing leads to another. So you're going to have far more people who are just kind of idly reading your stuff out here, the free thing. And you have, you know, a few people who will sign up, a percentage of them who will sign up for your reader magnet, and then you'll have some of those who will go on to read everything you've written, and then some of those are likely to be the people who are going to purchase the premium product. And if you think about it in that way, I think it's a useful way to structure it in your mind.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Okay, so we're almost finished. Anything coming up this month for Ally or for you personally?
Self-PubCon, and nothing else happens when Self-PubCon is happening. Oh yes, and we have in Ally, we've been working hard on the organisation membership and have a new publication for other writers' organisations and associations, empowering independent author publishers, a guide for associations. So we're really kind of going out hard now on the idea that really authors associations are author champions, and not having self-publishing authors in them is just not okay anymore. Yeah. So yeah, that's going on as well.
A few won't be so happy about that, but there we go. Just tell people where they can find the Self-PubCon.
Yes, it's at selfpublishingadviceconference.com, and it runs on the 17th, Saturday the 17th, and into Sunday the 18th. It will be free then for 3 days, and then it will be half price to get all of the Self-PubCon since 2018. And yeah, there'll be more stuff going out in the Ally newsletter and stuff about it over the coming week. But you can just go directly onto the site and register. It's literally just leaving your email address there, and then we will send you all the information that you need to turn up on the day and learn lots about. Really amazing, I have to say. I learned lots from this conference. Really amazing tech and really amazing.
Sounds good. Tools. Fantastic. So that's 17th, 18th of October 2020, if people are wondering.
Being precise.
Well, some people listen years later, so there we go. And if we are not locked down again, I will be doing a COVID secure pilgrimage this month from Southwark.
Yes, tell the people, this is great.
From Southwark in London to Canterbury, following the Becket Way, where the martyr Thomas à Becket was martyred in Canterbury Cathedral, following like the Canterbury Tales by Chaucer, that route. So fingers crossed we're not all locked down and back in our houses, and if we are not, I will be wearing my mask and doing my walk. So hopefully that will happen, and I'm going to turn that into 2 books. One will be a novel about the bones of Becket, relics. I love relics. And the other one will be about the pilgrimage itself. It will be a pilgrimage travel guide to the Becket Way. So it'll be my first non-fiction under JF Penn, which will go out sometime in 2021. So I'm kind of nervous, kind of really excited, kind of, oh yes, this is what I want to do with my life right now. So I guess we'll talk more about that later. But what are we going to talk about next month, Orna, so everyone knows?
Yeah, next month, switching completely from products and premium and money and all that kind of thing, we thought we would move back over to the creative side and look at a lot of people are finding it a little bit challenging at the moment in terms of all that's going on to keep the creative flow moving, because we're out of our normal creative routines. We've all had to adapt. It's okay to adapt for a while, but then maybe it's all stopped. So yeah, we're going to look at how do you ensure a kind of constant flow of the good stuff, of the stuff that makes the books happen? Yeah.
I'll read the official title, which is How to Fill the Creative Well and Ensure a Constant Flow of Ideas for Your Author Business.
Don't know what I said.
The good stuff. Flow of the good stuff is brilliant. So we'll be talking about that next month. And oh my goodness, it will be November. So yes, scary stuff. So please join us next month. As ever, please do leave a comment, whatever you'd like to say or comment on, or whatever you're doing as an author. We're totally interested, so please do leave a comment. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, and I guess happy writing.
Happy writing, happy publishing. This will go out as podcast audio on the Self-Publishing Advice Centre on Friday next. So you can get the show notes and links to some of the things we've been talking about there. All right. So thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.